Geordie Prepper here. Welcome to another Prepper News broadcast. Today is the 24th of January 2024 and it's a Wednesday. Just going to put up this graphic here because I can imagine right now there's a lot of people, I'd say under 35, 30 right now. They're probably looking something like this. The first article we're going to talk about is what this military chief has warned the British public about, which is that conscription is going to come to your door. No surprises there. But we've got people twining and whining and crying on Twitter about it. So here's the truth, kids. Listen up. You've let yourself become lazy, unskilled, physically and mentally compromised. And yes, you are going to go on the front line. And it's as simple as that. You comply with all your other master's orders. This one's no different. You're going to go on the front line and you're going to like it. You might twine and you might cry for a little bit. You'll have your little tantrum in the streets, moaning about it. Maybe even daddy has got enough cash so that he takes you off the front. It's been done before. But for the rest of you who don't have anyone in politics as a mum and dad, then I'm sorry, but you're going to go to the front line. And yeah, you're going to kick and scream your feet a little bit. But you are going to be in the sights of a Russian rifle. You let yourselves become a shadow of what a man and a woman should be, and you're going to face up to this reality. You're just going to see how compromised, weak and feeble you are when you are conscripted, and you are going to be conscripted. Right, so now that's out of the way. A little bit of truth there for all you snowflakes. British public will be called up to fight if the UK goes to war because the military is too small. The head of the army is to warn. General Sir Patrick Sanders will stress the need for the government to mobilise the nation in the event of war with Russia in a speech on Wednesday. Well, there you go. You've heard it. And you're gonna not do anything about it. Because guess what? You've let everything else that's wrong with this country happen. This isn't any different. Doomsday clock, that symbolic clock, doesn't really mean anything. But the doomsday clock's been moved to 90 seconds last year, I believe. They've basically left it at 90 seconds. I mean, not that it means anything. I think these news people, though, I think they're like Jean-Michel Jarre. Because I'm pretty sure this is the cover of Oxygen. But anyways, Bulletin of Atomic Scientists, as they did last year. Set the clock to 90 seconds. Right, okay, so it was last year. Theoretical point of annihilation. I mean, as Dr. Manhattan says, a symbolic clock is as nourishing to the intellect as a photo of oxygen is to a drowning man. It doesn't mean absolutely anything. I think what they've done by keeping it at the same time to midnight is they're basically not trying to spook basically the public. People are panicking. This conscription thing that we just talked about, everybody on Twitter is talking about it. Some people are angry. Some people are basically saying they're not going to comply. And, you know, they've got children that they won't allow to be sent to the front line. I think if they had moved the clock a bit closer to midnight, especially with this British guy coming out and saying what he's going to say today, I mean, wow, holy cow. It was probably a good idea to leave it at 90 seconds, but I think it probably would have settled people's nerves more if they moved it back to like 120 seconds, like 2 minutes to midnight. And then that would have like given them a much bigger window of calm. Alright, so next thing we're looking at here, this NATO chief, looks like they just rolled him out of his coffin. Looks like death warmed up. But NATO chief says that Ukraine has become a battle of ammunition. Well, yeah, because NATO's running out of it. The United States can't produce enough of it. Or they're unwilling to hand over their large stocks of it. If they do have a massive reserve of stock, both NATO and the United States, to give the Ukraine, they're going to wait until the real knife's edge, you know, they're just about to run out. And then they'll just keep trickling in just enough, you know, so that they can still fire those shells at the Russians. But anyways, let's give my voice a break and let's listen to this guy, this voice bot, talk about it for a little bit.
NATO chief says Ukraine war has become battle of ammunition. NATO Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg warned Tuesday that the war in Ukraine has turned into a battle of ammunition, again calling on Western allies to provide additional military aid for the country as it fights Russia. The war in Ukraine has become a battle of ammunition, he told reporters. We cannot allow President Vladimir Putin to win in Ukraine. That would be a tragedy for the Ukrainians and dangerous for all of us.
Well, there you go. The voice bot has had its little say there about it. The nearly 2-year war has drained Ukrainian ammunition reserves, with the country relying on Western allies for military supplies. And like I said in the last video, Zelensky's been very frustrated about how this help has just been drib-drabbing in. A deliberate attempt by Russia at the minute to exhaust the air defense, specifically Ukrainians' air defensive missiles. And we did see recently, they were doing that massive aerial campaign where they were sending a lot of missiles over, which in turn needs a lot of anti-missile missiles to intercept them. This just all makes sense. Russia is basically, and this has been talked about many times by a lot of different people, but one of the reasons, why this is dragging on so long is because it's a deliberate attempt to drain the West of their supplies of ammunition. Because when they've got no more ammunition, it just makes future campaigns that they're going to do a lot easier. So, it all makes sense. Russia could have just totally and completely steamrolled Ukraine if they wanted to. Absolutely no question about it. The reason why it's taking so long, it's deliberate. And, I don't think a lot of people quite realize that. And to make matters worse in the Ukraine, Germany is going to supply military helicopters to them. Federal government intends to support the defense of Ukraine with the supply of military helicopters from the arsenal of the Bundeswehr. The German Tagesschau reports. And they're giving them Sea Kings, which are very, very good helicopters. They're used by the British Search and Rescue Department. United States and British forces are launching new strikes against the Houthis in Yemen again. As if that's not going to make things worse. They're targeting a Houthi underground storage site, as well as missile and surveillance capabilities used by, here comes again, the Iran-aligned group against Red Sea shipping, the Pentagon said. Funny how they never say United States-backed Ukrainians. The Houthis, who control the most popular parts of Yemen, have said their attacks are in solidarity with Palestinians as Israel strikes Gaza. And to be honest, they're getting more and more people coming to their cause. It's just getting more and more support on the Houthis and the Iranians. Just people are starting to... Basically what's happening at the minute, you're seeing people starting to rally. They're basically getting behind who they want to support because they know what's coming. When it starts to come down to the wire, eventually what will happen is the alliances on both sides, they'll start to become cemented in stone, and you're going to see them conducting more drills together, being more cooperative across all things like finance, military, intelligence, everything. So as well as the targets in Yemen that have been hit, the United States has also hit militia sites in Iraq. So it seems at the minute that the current round of strikes hinder their ability to organize strikes against targets like ships in the Red Sea and any military assets that are in the Red Sea to protect those ships. Right, so going to North Korea now, they've started to launch cruise missiles. The latest firing of missiles by Pyongyang comes as the South Korean navies were training. The training was aimed at strengthening operational readiness following North Korea's recent artillery firing near a disputed maritime border and weapons tests. So yeah, definitely still a tense region. Moving on to the Ukraine now, and Zelensky's promised action and a strong response after 18 people were killed and 130 plus were wounded in recent Russian strikes. I believe they hit one city like 3 times in a day or something like that. They've really stepped up the strikes on Ukraine. Kharkiv Regional Governor Oleg Sinigubov said 8 people have been killed in the overnight barrage that also wounded more than 50 people. And they also hit Kyiv and some other Ukrainian cities as well. As I was saying earlier, people are going to start cementing their allegiances, and Turkey has ratified and backed Sweden's bid to join NATO. So we can see that basically NATO is bringing everything under their umbrella that they can before the real war starts. The Turkish MPs have approved the Swedish bid, ending one of the last hurdles for their entry into NATO, and it was a 20-month-long deadlock. Sweden now only needs Hungary to ratify their bid, and then that's the final approval to join the alliance. They've basically conducted drills and other exercises with NATO anyway, so I mean, they're essentially in NATO. It's just, they're just making it more official. That's the end of today's Prepper News. Thanks very much for watching. Be safe, be prepared, and I'll see you in the next broadcast. This has been Geordie Prepper, signing out.